Okay, polynomials. We're doing the same thing we've been doing, except now we're going to do more word problem-ese. So, I'm always looking for a different color because I get bored with these colors. Oh well. But I digress. So, let's start with the first problem and think about writing the equations or the polynomials before we start. So we have a bedroom that's a rectangle, and we have the length and the width. So to find the area, we're going to multiply x plus 3 times x minus 1. And I heard some of you guys using the term FOIL. FOIL is a way to think about multiplying two binomials together. F stands for first terms, multiply. O is for outer terms, multiply. I is for inner terms, multiply. And L is for last terms. I'll put it over here. Last terms, multiply. So when I say FOIL, what I'm talking about doing is multiplying my x and my x. That's the first terms, which is x squared. Outer terms would be the x and the negative 1. So I have minus x. Inner terms would be the 3 and the x, which is 3x plus 3x. And then the outer term, or the last terms are going to be 3 and negative 1, which is going to be minus 3. So same thing that we've been getting for everything else. It's just a way to think of how to match the terms up to make sure you get them all instead of double distributing. So my final answer is going to be x squared, combine those, plus 2x minus 3. And if I need to calculate the area for x equals 10, then I'm going to have 10 squared plus 2 times 10 minus 3. So that's 100 plus 20 minus 3, which is 117. So that would be the area of x equals 10. Okay, so FOIL is one way to think about solving these equations. And you now know like 4 different ways to solve equations, and I want you to pick the way that works best for you and just use that way to solve them. You don't have to solve it any particular way, but you need to be able to consistently get the correct answer. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Your equations aren't working. So, okay, so we're talking about across a river, and we have the distance across the whole river, or from cabin to cabin, and then we have the distance to the river and from the river. So if I take my distance the whole way and I subtract the distance to the river from one cabin and then subtract the distance of the river from the other cabin, whatever I have left is going to be how wide the river is. So I'm going to take 12x squared minus 7x plus 5, and I'm going to subtract 9x plus 1. And we seem to be having trouble with the fact that if I'm subtracting, I have to subtract both terms. I'm not just subtracting 9x, I'm subtracting the 9x and also subtracting the 1. So I need to make sure I change the signs. So my 9x is going to be minus 9x, and my 1 is going to be minus 1. I end up with 12x squared minus 16x plus 4. Now I'm going to subtract the next one, and the next one is, oops, I forgot my square. I'm going to subtract 3x squared plus 4. And again, I'm subtracting the 3x squared and I'm subtracting the 4. So I need to make sure I subtract the 3x squared and the 4 from my equation, from my expression. So I end up with 9x squared minus 16x, and my 4 minus 4 cancel out. So here's my polynomial. And that's the width of the river. And if I have x equals 3, then I'm going to have 9 times 3 squared minus 16 times 3. That'd be 9 times 9 minus 3 times 6 is 18, and 3 times 1 is 3, and 1 more is 4. So I'm going to end up with 81 minus 48. 48, 58, 68, 78, so that's 33 is going to be my answer. Multiple step problems, usually when they're word problems. Okay, a photograph that's 8 by 10. So here's my photograph, and it's 8 by 10. And I'm going to add a border of uniform width. That means all the way around it's going to be X, 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 X. I make bad X's. Okay, so if I'm going to write an expression for the new perimeter, this length right here is going to be 8 plus 2x, because I have an x on both sides. And then the length is going to be 10 plus 2x, because I have x's on both sides. So when I write the perimeter, I have 8 plus 2x plus 10 plus 2x. And then when I get that, I'm going to multiply the whole thing times 2. So I'm going to have 18 plus 4x, and I'm going to multiply that times 2, and I'm going to have 36 plus 8x is my perimeter. Okay, so if I'm going to find the new area, I'm going to have 8 plus 2x times 10 plus 2x. So now I'm going to do my double distributing. So I'm going to have 8 times 10 plus 2x plus 2x times 10 plus 2x. And I end up with distributing 80 plus 16x plus 20x plus 4x squared. These combine. I'm going to rearrange it so my x's are in order from biggest exponent to smallest. So I have 4x squared plus 36x plus 80. Notice the difference when you multiply, which is area, and add, which is perimeter, right? Makes a big difference when you multiply. Okay, so if I want the area of the border, I'm going to take the area of the whole thing, which is 4x squared plus 36x plus 80, and I'm going to subtract 8 times 10, which is the area of the picture because it's an 8 by 10 picture. So this is going to end up just taking away the 80, and what I have left is 4x squared plus 36x. That's the area of the border. Okay, number 4 is going to take a little bit of time. I'm going to cut this into 2 shapes right here. So I have the height, the length, and I need the width. The width is going to be this right here, 4. So for this little box on top, the volume is 4 times 2 times x minus 2. 4 times 2 is 8, times x minus 2 is 8x minus 16. So that's the volume of the top box. The bottom box is going to be this is going to be x minus 2 plus 5. So that's this little part and this whole way across. So that's my length. Here's my width, and here's my height. So for the big box, I'm going to have 4 times x minus 1 times x minus 2 plus 5 is x plus 3. So I'm going to save my 4, and I'm going to run out of room for number 5, that's for sure. Okay, I'm going to make a box. Here's my x minus 1, and here's my x plus 3. So x times x is x squared. X times negative 1 is negative x. 3 times x is 3x. And 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. I add all these together and I end up with x squared plus 3x minus x minus 3, which is x squared plus 2x minus 3. I need to multiply that times 4. And my big box is going to then be 4x squared plus 8x minus 12. And then I'm going to put this on, stack it under, 8x minus 16. And my total volume, adding those together, is going to be 4x squared plus 16x minus 28. So there's my total volume. You have to find the volume of the little box and the volume of the big box. So let's see if I can find room to work number 5. If I want the area of the shaded region, I'm going to do the area of the trapezoid minus the area of the triangle. So the area of a trapezoid is 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times height, and the triangle is going to be 1/2 base times height. So for my trapezoid, I'm going to have 1/2, and then the height is 12, and then my bases are x plus 3 plus 2x plus 5. So my area of my trapezoid is going to be 1/2 of 12 is 6. 6 times 3x plus 8, which is 18x plus 48. So that's my trapezoid. And I'm going to find the area of my triangle. I should switch colors. That would have made this better. So you can see. Okay, so the area of the triangle is 1/2. The base is x minus 1, and the height is 12. So I'm going to end up with 6 times x minus 1, or 6x minus 6. So I'm subtracting that. So I'm going to do 18x plus 48 minus 6x plus 6. Why plus? Because it was minus, and I'm subtracting a minus, so it's adding. So I'm going to have 12x plus 42. This is the area of the shaded region. All right, if that's not messy, I don't know what is. Hope you're following along. All right, last one, shaded area. Okay, so I have a rectangle. My area of my rectangle minus the area of a circle, because together this and this make a circle. So the area of the rectangle is 10xy times 4y, which is 40xy squared. And the area of the circle is going to be pi r squared. Is that the area of a circle? Yeah. Wow. I have to think about that for a minute. So it's going to be pi r squared. And I'm not going to worry about what pi is because I don't know what r is or anything else. Okay, so what's the radius of the circle? If this is the diameter, then the radius is going to be half that. So the radius is going to be 2y. So I have pi times 2y squared, which is going to be pi 4 y squared. So I have 40xy squared minus, I'm putting the 4 in front, 4 pi y squared. And I have separate terms because xy squared and y squared are not the same. So I can't combine them. So this is all I can do is 40xy squared minus 4 pi y squared. And that's it. See, it looks so hard, but it's not. So hopefully it's the same thing we were already doing. And if you think about it, when you have, I'll just pick another color just because I can. Oh, maybe, okay, green. Okay, so here's the deal. If I have x minus 1, x plus 2, I can say FOIL, which means I do x times x, which is x squared, outer, which is x times 2, which is 2x, inner, which is negative 1 times x, which is minus x, and last, which is negative 1 times 2, which is minus 2. Combine, and I get x squared plus x minus 2. Okay, I can double distribute. I can split up my x minus 1 and multiply both of those terms times x plus 2. And I end up with x squared plus 2x minus x minus 2. Oh, look, it's the same. Okay, and then the last thing I can do is I could draw a box. X minus 1, x plus 2, multiply across x squared minus x plus 2x minus 2. X squared minus x plus 2x minus 2. Same thing. So 3 different ways to work these problems. I like number 2 best because I like to write it all out so I remember what I'm doing. Although sometimes I do FOIL if it's a small enough, if it's numbers that are small enough like that. If I get into X, Y's and stuff, I'll probably use number 2 because that's one I'm most comfortable with. Oh boy, and it's late and you should go to bed.